I just realized my mic has been muted. Hello! I was just talking to literally no one because my mic was muted. I'm still kind of new to this whole streaming thing, so I will probably make mistakes like that fairly often, but it's okay because I saw it before I got way too deep into that. So, yes, tonight we are talking about season 15, episode 16, Drag Me Away From You, okay? Our thoughts, our reactions, just what happened, and specifically, maybe a little bit about our predictions for the season series finale. Because I think there were a couple things in this episode that possibly hinted. I don't want to put too much hope into these hints because Supernatural has this really great way of putting your expectations in something hopeful and ripping it all away from you. Yes. It's really, really good at that. So I'm not going to put too much hope in my ideas about what might happen in the series finale. But I will talk about them. So not just going to push them under a rug because I need to talk about them. So what I want to start with is just a simple hi, how is everyone doing? I'm doing fine, doing okay. Had a bit of a stressful week, not to lie, but doing okay right now. So if you all want to tell me how you're doing or how your week has been, pop it in the chat whenever you get a chance. So that's pretty much all I have to say about my week. I'm not going to go into much detail because it's really just not something I wanted to talk about on here right now. But anyway, I always want to start out by at least asking you how you're doing. So, I don't know, maybe we should just dive right into the episode and what happened, right? So, basically this was a Monster of the Week episode, right? With a little bit of throwback mixed in. We got to see some young Sam and Dean in action. But it was a typical Monster of the Week episode. At the end, there was a little bit of overarching plot thrown in. Happy about that. We needed that. But for the most part, classic Monster of the Week episode. And I think these are always pretty good. Because often, maybe not even often, maybe most of the time, these monsters serve as kind of reflection of what's going on within the show, but mostly within the characters. So, I remember back in season, oh gosh, I don't remember. I want to say season 4, but don't quote me on that. Back in season 4, there was an episode about aruguru. I wanted to say arugula, but that's a vegetable. Aruguru? I don't know. It was that monster guy where after he reached a certain age, 30 or whatever, he turned into the monster and he wanted to eat raw meat, and basically he would end up eating humans. And they wanted to help, Sam wanted to help him, Dean wanted to stop him. Sam felt empathy for this guy because he was he's never done anything wrong. He didn't choose this life. This is just who he is. He's born into this. I mean, how are we supposed to know? Or how is he supposed to know? And he doesn't deserve to die. And Dean was he's a monster. He's gonna kill someone eventually. But the whole issue that was going on that season was Sam and his connection with the demon blood, and Sam gonna be bad? Was he gonna be good? Was he meant to be bad? Was he meant to be good? And so the show was wrestling this with Sam and Dean, and Sam in particular was really wrestling with this. Am I bad? So of course he felt empathy for that monster, because if this monster, or this man who happened to be a monster, who had really done nothing wrong yet, deserved to die, did Sam then deserve to die if he might hurt somebody in the future? So there was like that reflection going on there. So I think the monsters of the weeks typically do a pretty good job of reflecting what's going on. Sometimes very on the nose, sometimes not so much. That one, as I went back and watched it the first time, I don't feel that it was very on the nose. But there have been Monster of the Week episodes where it's been very, like, blatant, like, we're comparing these things. Not always, though. This week, I don't think it was so much on the nose. So, this Monster of the Week episode, I think, did a pretty good job of actually unearthing and bringing to light trauma, particularly. So we'll get into that later a little more, but basically, as to go back to my first point here, was this was a Monster of the Week episode, right? And so Sam and Dean get a call from an old friend who they met years ago when they were teenagers. They all were staying at the same motel, and there was some sort of creature, ghost, witch, something there that was stealing children, and it attacked their friend's brother, and Dean had to go and kill this monster, and Sam helped a little bit too, but they had to take care of this by themselves in this motel room because their dad was off somewhere else doing his own hunt. Dean must have been like, I don't know, 14, 15. Sam would have been, well, maybe a little bit older. Maybe Sam was 12, Dean was 16, or somewhere around there. But they weren't very old. But years later, they get a call from this friend because her brother went back to the motel and was killed. And she thinks that whatever creature was there was back, and everyone else thinks that he killed himself. So they go through the thing of, is it a monster? Is it just normal life? And they finally realize that it's a monster and basically try to figure out how to kill it and what to do about it. And while Sam is researching with the friend, Dean is at the diner picking up food, and he gets a visit from Billy. And that was very important. I always love it when Billy shows up in the episodes, because I think the actress, she brings so much power to the scenes that she does. She's so good, like just the way she talks to Dean. She's like, don't mess this up. I need everything in order. I don't like loose ends. Like, she just puts her foot down and straightens him out. Because so basically she has to straighten him out because the whole issue is like that Dean's not telling Sam the whole details of the plan, from last episode when Jack dropped the bomb on Cass, who dropped the bomb on Dean, who hasn't told Sam. And so she's like, get this all together. Get everyone on board. And that was a great, great scene. But it caused Sam and Dean to have a conversation at the end in the car, kind of one of those classic brothers fights where one of them has to come clean. This time it's Dean. Dean has to come clean, and he has to say, okay, here's the whole truth. Jack is going to die. And Sam loses it. I absolutely loved that. He loses it. He gets so angry. Dean's trying to apologize, and Sam is just like, stop talking. I don't want to hear it. Just drive and literally leave me alone right now. And I loved it. Like, I feel like this is Sam cracking, and he always tries to hold himself together so well and not release his anger because he's scared of it, right? He's scared of his anger. He's scared of what he might do, or what he might say, or all that kind of stuff. And he just snaps. It was lovely. It was really, really great to see that. And so that's where we end the episode, with them fighting in this terrible fight. I mean, I got some screen caps that I'll pull up to show some of their faces, but that's where we leave this episode off. Is, I'm like, okay, this is nearly the end of this season, and they're fighting. This is great. This is really great. But I think it's really touching at some really good key points, some really core things going on with them. And that's kind of what I want to focus on with this episode. Because like I said, I felt like the Monster of the Week did a pretty good job of reflecting some of the issues going on. And maybe not necessarily the monster and who she was, but what she did, right? So the monster was a Baba Yaga, some sort of witch type thing, immortal, kind of, as long as she had her ring. And she stole children and kept them to feed off of them. So she gets her life blood, her existence, from feeding off of children, which is interesting now that I think about it, because this episode really was about how do we respond to and interact with our childhood traumas, and how is that like maybe affecting us later in life. Like, that may sound like really, really deep or something, but it's really what it was about, because the episode opens with Travis, okay, their friend's brother, and he's checking into the hotel. He's clearly very scared. He was supposed to check in earlier that day. He can't even make himself get there until 10 p.m. He picks a very specific room, 214, and when she says, you wanted 214, like, you picked this room, he's like, doctor's orders. And I knew right then, I was like, okay, something happened to this man in room 214, and his psychologist, therapist, or whoever is telling him to go back and go into this room and stay at night to get over the fear of it, right? So that's what he's supposed to be doing. I knew that right away, because I don't know how many of you all know, but that is my job, is to be a therapist, or to be a therapist. My job is I am a therapist. And one of the ways to help people get over anxiety is to gradually introduce them to things that make them nervous, and step by step getting them to like calm down, and then you move on to the next level, right? So if I'm scared of spiders, I might try to look at pictures of spiders, and if that's too much, I might try to just think about spiders, or whatever. You make like a hierarchy of what scares you the most, and then you start at the very bottom and you work your way up that. So the idea is that by the end of it, I might get scared with the spider crawls on my hand, but I can calm myself down and eventually not be super scared of it. So I kind of knew that's just what was going on with this guy. He's visibly scared to be in this hotel, but his doctor told him he had to. And he gets in the room and he starts to feel more fear, but he's sitting on the bed, he's talking to himself. This isn't real, this isn't real. And he takes this ring and he starts to rub it. And that was really cool to see. That's a grounding thing. So he's trying to bring himself to the present moment by like rubbing on something like a ring, and keeping himself in reality by feeling something that's right there with him. But The sad thing is we know is that it was real. It wasn't imagined, and whatever it was comes back and kills him. But makes it look like he killed himself, or it made him kill himself, which is interesting. I'll come back to that later, but we open the episode with this introduction to this character who has been traumatized his whole life by what happened as a child, and he's been trying to deal with it. It's affected his whole life, right? He can't keep a job. He's had to see this therapist, and he's trying to get over this fear, but it's not working for him, right? So in the midst of all that, we get flashbacks of Sam and Dean together as children, and we kind of get to see them interact at this age of, you know, growing up, being on their own more, and doing a hunt by themselves, essentially. So we see pretty much classic Dean of, this is our life, we can't be anything else, why would you even think that we could be anything else? And Sam feeling different, thinking he wants to be normal, he wants to go to college. We know that that's how they are, but we see this play out again, and we see how they've kind of both dealt with the fact that that is their life, right? So Dean has settled it in himself that that's all he's going to get, right? To avoid maybe any disappointment. Okay? He's had to take up a lot of responsibility to take care of Sam, and so that's all he knows, right? He has to take up the responsibility in the hunt to go by himself to look for the creature, to be the one to kill the creature, to shield these kids, the girl that goes with him, their friend, from the reality of the creature. We find out later in the episode that he sees the children who have died in the nest, but he doesn't tell anybody. So we see, you know, this is how Dean has to deal with this life. He has to be the responsible one. And if he doesn't do his job, somebody could get hurt. So he has to resolve it in himself. This is just his life. Sam, on the other hand, wants to explore options. He feels stuck and he wants to get out of it. He maybe feels jealous of other kids, possibly, or just stuck, and he wants different opportunities. And when Dean finds out that Sam is looking into college because he steals a college book out of a hotel and Dean finds it, Dean, in his trauma, insults Sam and says, "What? They're not gonna let someone stupid like you in," or, you know, and kind of puts Sam down. But he's really not trying to put Sam down, right? I don't think he truly believes that Sam is stupid. But what Dean says is a reflection of what he's feeling about himself and his own life. How could they let us kids, hunter kids who have barely ever been to school, into college? I would never get into college. And he's scared of being by himself. At the end of the episode, or the end of the flashbacks in the episode, they've killed the monster, and Sam ended up helping because it all happened in their motel room where they were staying. Dean's like, you know, about that college thing, I didn't really mean it, but we make a pretty good team. So he doesn't really believe Sam is stupid, but he's projecting those feelings onto him, and by saying, you know, we make a good team, he's showing that he's afraid of not having that teammate with him. So I think that in that way the episode does a pretty good job of displaying some of the ways as kids they handled their trauma, right? The trauma of literally killing and fighting monsters, the trauma of being left alone. I mean, their dad was, what, 2 days drive away? That's crazy. And where are they? You know, they're in some motel by themselves. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, just the weight that would have had on Dean, and just the disappointment in Sam not being able to rely on his dad, you know. But we see as adults them kind of start to process this, because as they have to revisit this place and revisit the events, there was a comment made by Sam where he is like telling Dean, you know, you didn't know. You were just a kid. You know, we were just kids. We were doing the best we could. Right? So that's something that you come to realize later in life. You don't realize that as a kid. It can take people years, decades sometimes, to like forgive themselves of things that happened in their childhood because they've blamed themselves for it. And so to hear Sam say that kind of showed me that they were processing that. But we see that Dean hasn't really let go of a lot of that guilt from childhood. He's in the process of trying to let go of it, but he hasn't. You know, Amara talked last episode about how bringing his mother back was supposed to free him from these burdens and things. Right, revisit this and get some of these ideas out of your head of a feeling like shackled to this cause of who you thought you were supposed to be, right? And but Dean hasn't quite forgiven himself, because when the creature appears to him, she appears to him in the form of, what was it, then of the dead children, or it was Travis, I think, maybe. And, or no, it was Sam. I think it was Sam. It was something like that. And it was like they were hurt or whatever, and they were saying to Dean, like, this was your fault, you did this, you didn't save them, and starts to convince Dean to hurt himself, right? And he would have if Sam hadn't jumped in and interrupted the whole, like, interaction between them and kind of brought Dean back to reality there for a second. But the ghost is able to influence Dean in this way. So, you know, Sam maybe in some ways has been able to kind of gain some perspective as an adult on what happened to them as kids and how they dealt with it. So he's been able to, like, you know what, I was just a kid, that was so messed up, I shouldn't have been in that position, right? You know, why would I blame myself? That's crazy. We freaking fought a ghost monster witch thing. Why am I going to blame myself for something not going the way I thought it would? And Dean, but in true Dean fashion, the same way he does as a kid now, is still as an adult carrying that weight and that responsibility of how these things turn out. It's always what he could have done differently it's like the sole responsibility for how things are going to turn out. And of course, then that translates into how they feel and about possibly the end of the world coming upon them, right? So they have to save the world, and if they make one wrong move, as Billy threatens, the whole thing could just end anyway, and they would fail. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, the stakes are certainly high. Billy tells him that the very last world that Chuck had to destroy is gone. Literally, the only world left is their world. So that's certainly a lot of pressure. But we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. There's been a lot of speculation about, like, who's going to die? Is anyone going to die? Are they all going to die? Is Jack really going to die? Is Cass going to die? Is somebody going to sacrifice himself? You know, who knows, right? there's been a lot of talk. I want to say even since season 12 when Dab started taking over. But certainly in recent seasons, and certainly in this season, a lot of talk about what it would be like to have a normal life. It was brought up by the friend. I don't remember her name. I keep saying friend, but I really don't remember her name. She asked Sam while they're researching ghosts and monsters and lore, "Is this your life now?" And he's like, "Yeah." She goes, "That's sad." And I was like, "Yes, please tell him that." And, he's just like, "It is what it is." I don't remember exactly what he said. I mean, I watched the episode like 2 hours ago, but I don't remember exactly what he said. And, yeah, she's like, "That's sad." There's talk about what would it be like to be normal? Have you ever thought about wanting that? And a couple episodes ago, I mean, Sam goes on a date with Eileen. That's a very normal thing to do. So I don't know. Maybe they're hinting at that's what they would try to do after saving the world, to finally settle down and try to live a normal life. But like I said at the beginning, Supernatural has this great way of putting hope in your mind about something like that and just violently ripping it away from you. I really hope not everyone dies. I just think that would be kind of pointless if literally everybody died. But I also know that like everyone living a normal life is kind of high expectations for Supernatural. But I also want to think about like what's an appropriate ending. Everyone dying doesn't seem appropriate. To me at least. But I don't know. I think it would be more appropriate to have some sort of bittersweet ending. I don't know. But I think it would be more appropriate to have them rewarded for everything they've done and not just killed and everything left sad. It doesn't have to be like dreamy and amazing and every single happy thing happens to them. But I do think that it should be like a peaceful ending, like a satisfactory, like, okay. Like in the theme song, there'll be peace when you are done. To give them peace, right? For saving the world one last time. So yeah, I don't know. It'd be great if I could see some other like predictions from you guys, and we can discuss those, what you think might happen. But I do think it's interesting that there's been a lot of talk about leading normal lives or what it would be like to lead a normal life. And I just have to wonder if they're hinting at anything or trying to bring in those themes so that it doesn't seem like such a out of the blue thing that happens at the end of the season, that it's a theme that's been talked about and discussed, and the characters have said how they feel about it, so that when the time comes for them to make that choice, then it seems like a normal right choice, right? But I don't know. We'll see. So, I don't know. That's pretty much most of what I have to say about it. I think now that I've kind of gone through that, I want to go through some screen caps because I think I'm getting pretty good at taking them. Some of them are not the best. Some of the eye thing is hard for me to. I always take a screen cap and I think, yeah, it's good, and then I look at it and the eyes are like, so we'll see. But I think I'm getting better. So I want to go through some of these screen caps just to get a visual on the episode, right? So what we have first is this god-awful hotel room, okay? I thought this hotel room was ugly, okay? It just is too much for me. But I digress. Yeah, we have Travis sitting in the god-awful hotel room, right? So he's brought alcohol with him. Interesting choice for trying to deal with trauma. and PTSD, but it's okay. We are there with you, Travis. We understand. Next, I grab this screenshot of this creepy kid just popping out of the closet like, hello. It's like, okay, who the heck is that? This really threw me for a loop. I'm not gonna lie, because when all we saw was these ghosts of these people, like children, like the person was seeing the ghost or this creature as them as a child, I was really confused by what that meant, and like I was like, oh, what kind of creature does that? But it ended up not really having anything to do with what kind of creature it was. But that did confuse me for a minute. Here's the lovely little motel where they're staying at. The vending machines that were here in the 90s were the same ones that were here in the episode of today. Yeah, very, very old vending machines. Gotta get some good shots of them talking. Honestly, not the best. Screen cap, like I said, I'm getting better. I'm not the greatest at it, but I am getting better. I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger for y'all. You'll have to tell me in the comments if it's like too small, if it's okay. Instead of like playing around with the size of it, so let me know. And then I thought this was a decent, okay? Their eyes are not closed. They're looking off to the distance, whatever. And it's got the episode title. I did not mean to do that, but I did it, and I like it. I like it. And I like this shot. I got this shot of them pulling up to the motel, and I was like, yes, this is a fine shot. I think I did okay on this one. This motel is really ugly though. Like the exterior, the interior, it was a very ugly motel. And here we have the book that Sam stole off a motel bookshelf or something about colleges. And this really dated the episode flashbacks for me because I didn't realize, I just wasn't thinking. But yeah, this was 1991 was when this would have been. And he was, thinking about this. And let's see, in 1991, let's see, Sam was born in 83. So he would have been, he'd only been like 9. No, wait a second. In 90, he would have been 7. Yeah, 8 or 9. He definitely looked older than 8 or 9 in this episode, but that puts Dina like 12 or 13. Maybe this is just an outdated book. Let's say it's outdated a couple years, and let's give Sam the age of 11. Because if Dina is literally fighting that monster at age 11 or 12, no, sorry, 12 or 13. I mean, I know he had to. I know these things happen, but I'm going to throw hands at somebody. That's ridiculous. I'm just going to say this book is outdated like by 2 years, and it's really 1993. Okay? And, yeah. And Dina's like 13. And Sam is like 10, right? Okay, we're just going to say that. The screenshots, okay, they're not looking at the camera, you can't see their faces, but nothing is blurry, so that's good. And here we have the dean, here we have Dean talking to the kids they met at the motel, teaching them some tricks about the vending machine. We've got Travis here and his sister, and honestly, Travis is a cute kid. I feel so bad for him. In the scene where he was like attacked and then he's like really scared, I just like, it was so sad because he was just like so scared that he couldn't even talk. I felt for him. There's a sister as an adult woman. Here they are talking to her, like, what's going on? Again, talking to her some more. more about why, I think in this she was telling them more about why she thinks something weird was going on. They were just kind of reminiscing. And there is the creepy, nasty hand. This is disgusting. I mean, just imagine yourself in a motel trying to get a snack, and this is what you see. It's disgusting. But the ring, they purposely show the ring, so like, you know that has to mean something, right? Yeah. I mean, we didn't know what it meant at the time of watching the episode, right? The first time we watched through, we don't know, but they did a pretty good job of putting it in our faces. But yeah, I just was like, ugh, ugh, ugh. It's wrinkly and gross, and I would freak out too. Nice shot of young Dean here with the god-awful wallpaper. And here are missing people signs. You know, honestly, this is mostly me like practicing my screen capping, right? So not that this has any point of interest like, for me to discuss, but I am like trying to practice my screen caps, right? So I think this one was decent. Not blurry, you know, good shot of the posters. And here they are talking with her in the room. Get a nice shot of all the lovely decor. Honestly, like, I guess linoleum floors are easy to clean, but if I walked in a motel room with linoleum floors, I would feel very uncomfortable. It's not very homey or comfy. Here's a nice shot of them all as kids trying to like figure out what the monster is, where it's hiding at, what's going on. Like they're using a map and candy to mark out where things have happened. They're looking through newspapers, and I don't know. I like this. It was very much like Stranger Things vibes to me, like all these kids like trying to figure out a mystery. I thought this was a cute scene with them interacting and trying to basically, like I said, solve a mystery, right? Random screen cap of Dean as a teenager going into the abandoned building to find the monster, right? And this was so cute. Sam playing with Travis, trying to like keep him distracted by playing Boggle. I'm really sad that the game didn't turn out well. It like popped open and exploded because the spirit like or the witch made it like all the letter things like fly out and the lights went out, and it ended up being like a very traumatic experience for all of them. But it started out really cute, right? It was really cute, and then it got traumatic. This one, I know this is supposed to be an intense moment where he's looking at the ghost down the hallway, but just the way he's standing is so I don't know. I just thought it was like funny. I don't know. It's just his shoulders just seem a little puffy. I don't know. It amused me. It amused me. And then boom, creepy ghosting, right? So he's standing there and he's looking at boom, the slick hair, of course, the semulant, right? What do you all think about the choice for the new actors they've had to get to play young Sam and Dean? Personally, I think the ones that they chose in the earlier seasons, like 15 years ago, were superior. But what do you think about them? It's weird for me seeing these actors playing young Sam and Dean because they aren't who I imagine when I imagine young Sam and Dean. I imagine the actors they used to have, but I know they've grown older, so they don't look like young Sam and Dean anymore. But I don't know. What do you guys think about them? That's a random screen cap that's not the greatest. Oops. Concerned Sam. We all need a little bit of concerned Sam in our lives. Okay. The brow. The eyes. The hair. Okay, this bugged me. Not the greatest screen cap. I almost had it, but his face is blurry. But this is right when he gets up and he goes, I'm going to check the lore. He said, the lore. That's a running inside joke somewhere on Tumblr. I don't remember, but pretty good. I thought that he said the lore. And then she's like, the lore? And then he's like, oh yeah, it's like research. Like someone actually pointed out that he said the lore and he had to explain it, right? So it's like not just something that he says and everyone accepts it. Someone was like, what's the lore? That was a great moment. Serious faces while discussing, serious faces while discussing, more serious faces while discussing. And I think this is the point at which Dean is telling them that this monster created a nest and kept a nest of the dead children. And this is the first time he's telling them this. And they're like, oh my god, you never told us? What? What? And this is where, instead of... this was a really nice moment for them because Dean was like, finally telling them this. And at first they were, Sam and they were like, what? Why are you just not saying this? And I don't remember what Dean says, but he gives his explanation, and then Sam kind of backs off for a second. You can see him like, you know what? That's not what Dean needs right now. He doesn't need me to be like, what? Why? Why didn't you do that? He's like, oh, you know, it's okay. It's okay. You were just trying to protect us. I get it. So again, like, Sam being able to, like, have some perspective on what happened to them as kids and, like, giving that perspective to Dean, right? When Dean is still shouldering that responsibility and that guilt of what happened, and Sam's trying to give him the perspective that he's gained. It's a very nice moment. Bad screen cap. Bad screen cap. If someone wants to meme this, they could totally meme it, but this was a bad... But I kept it in here because it's funny. I mean, who doesn't love, like, a derpy face, right? More concerned talking. And then boom, later on in the episode, Billy appears. Casually in the diner. I don't think the waitress could see her, but Dean could. And they're just having a nice chat. She's very serious. You can see her, like, extremely serious. She's like, excuse me? You haven't told them? And he's like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. She's like, get your crap together. And he's like, what, Jack? Get your crap together, right? That's a really good scene. And here we have concerned Sam researching. Always love good scenes of Sam researching. I haven't gone through Tumblr to, like, see if anyone, like, gifted or anything, but if anyone has, I definitely will be reblogging them. And nice shot of the motel room. I noticed later on that this one was green and blue and not red and orange, and it maybe is a little bit better because it's not so harsh. But then I was thinking, are all the motel rooms in here different colors? Like, I'm going to open one and it's purple and the other one's yellow, and I don't know. Usually they're just all the same, but this one was different, and it's kind of a scary thought, honestly. Here we have a nice shot of the screen showing the Baba Yaga, right? So this is what she is. And then Sam going, oh crap. I think this might have been the moment he realized the ring connection. And he was like, oh my god. Oh my god, we didn't kill it. It's still alive. Oh my god. I was proud of myself for grabbing that moment. And then he's talking to himself about it, blah, blah, blah. And he looks up and the girl that was literally just sitting right there, right? Okay. So she's sitting with him. And then she's gone. We see what happens, but Sam doesn't. Serious talking. No, I got this one because I liked the lighting in it. I thought it's kind of cool. I don't know. Like I said, I'm practicing, so I'm trying. This was really funny. I thought this was an interesting moment because Sam sees like the smoke coming out of the bottom of a motel room, and he's looking for the witch, and he's like, "Smoke, witch, bubbling cauldron, maybe." That's what I had in my mind, was like a bubbling cauldron or something. And then he opens the door, and it's just the motel staff smoking weed. That's all it was. This moment I thought was really funny because this is where Dean's walking down the hall, like looking around, and all of a sudden the door just opens by itself. And he's like, I've seen this before. And so his face is very just like, excuse me? Okay. I love the facial expressions. Him walking into the creepy motel room, and then the witch does some mind warpy thing where suddenly he's back in the abandoned building, but it's like extra abandoned because it's like present day abandoned building, lots of creepy cobwebs, and he stumbles upon the dead children again, except this time it was Sam. Thought this was just a nice shot though. And then they fight and they do some stuff and they get the ring off her and smash. I wish I would have gotten the screen cap like a couple half seconds later so there was some more green stuff coming out of it, but I did get the moment that he smashed it, so I'm proud of myself for this. I think as the episode went on, I got even better at my screen capping skills. And we have the nice appreciative look from Lady of the Week. A nice shot of, so we resolve the present day thing, and then we see the end of what happened in the flashbacks, where after they finished getting the monster that time, Dad rolls up in the Impala and they have to leave. And then we have screen caps of their fight. Dean telling Sam that he's basically been keeping stuff from him. Billy showed up and talked to him. And Sam was like, excuse me? Why does nobody ever tell me anything? Why am I out of the loop? Why am I last to know? And he loses it. This isn't a funny moment, but I kind of find this screen cap funny because he's like yelling, and then Sam was like, excuse me? But that doesn't make any sense. He's like, shut up. I loved it. You could just see, you know, like, they're just like, what? And then he's done. Sam is just looking away. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. Which is, like, kind of intense. We don't need a brother fight. For 6 episodes away from the end, when they're supposed to be working together. So I don't know how this is going to be resolved, because Sam is really close to Jack. He's closer than Dean is. And Cass is really close to him, that's why Cass is trying to find a different way, but Sam is really close to Jack. And so I don't know how he's going to handle this, or how this is going to be resolved. So I love seeing that he absolutely snapped after he found out about this. Especially when earlier in the episode he was like, oh yeah, we used to keep secrets from each other, in reference to something that was going on, and he was like, oh yeah, used to, yeah. And then Sam has to find out he was now keeping a secret, so he's mad about him lying, keeping a secret, he's mad about what's going to happen to Jack, all of it, and he just like is so mad, and I loved it.